welcome.
Hi, Diana.
So I heard about your story through someone with endo, and they said you have to read this phenomenal woman's journey and how she had to take a brief hiatus in order to address her endometriosis pain through surgery. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being public about your battle with endo, because it takes a lot of guts and courage anytime someone comes forward with a personal issue, especially one that directly impacted your career.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I was so lucky. I actually, one of my best friends has endometriosis. And so she had told me multiple times she thought that I ticked a lot of the boxes in terms of the symptoms that she was experiencing. I was experiencing very similar things. And I went to a few different gynecologists, and they always kind of told me that having painful periods was normal. I was always told to just take anti-inflammatories, try to get more rest around my period. And I did all of that, and it really did not help mitigate any of the things that were going on. If anything, I think sometimes the anti-inflammatories were kind of exacerbating some of the symptoms even more. So it just kind of got to the point, it seemed like everything was progressively getting worse. And then I finally, when I thought I had herniated a disc in my back because of how bad my sciatic nerve pain was, I went into a different gynecologist. I went in for the pelvic exam, and I nearly kicked my surgeon in the face because of how painful the pelvic exam was. It was excruciating. I've had multiple pelvic exams as a woman throughout my life. Never experienced anything like this before. A couple of the periods before, I felt like I was going to pass out and faint. My periods woke me up out of my sleep. Really stabbing, sharp pains, almost like contractions in my pelvis. And so she was very confident that I had endometriosis, but the only way to diagnose that was through the surgery. And for me, having to do that in the middle of my season, it was kind of like, the last final option, because really all of it started affecting my performance. I had to pull out of a match after I beat the number one player in the world and made the quarterfinals at a tournament. And then I had to pull out of my next match because the pain was so bad in my back. And I had a lot of misdiagnoses along the way, because a lot of my endometriosis was causing pain in my back. A few of the doctors that I saw, thought that it was joint related or RA related, facet joints, that kind of thing. I took time off, and then it didn't really get any better. And so that was kind of an indicator that it was something that was kind of going on more hormonally.
You tracked it with your cycle. Is that how you kind of figured out that the pain was cyclical?
Yeah, because with my strength and conditioning programs, we do so much tracking in terms of the loads, time on court, strain. And we noticed that around my period, I was always having little injuries come up. I was always having really bad pain in my back the week before, the week during, and the week after. So pretty much 3 weeks out of the month. And it wasn't always like that for me. Before I would kind of have some PMS symptoms leading up to my period, but then it seemed like it just started getting worse and worse. And then it was affecting me even after my cycle was done. And so like the worst thing for me, like when I was talking to my friend, was knowing what she went through surgery and having to take time off. I was like, well, I don't want to have to take time off during my season. But when this started affecting me to the point where I'm having to pull out of tournaments and matches, it was kind of like the only thing left to do. And it was amazing. Like once I had the surgery, I felt such a relief, especially in my back, because apparently my uterus had flipped towards a nerve in my back. And so they believed that was what was causing the sciatic nerve pain. And I also didn't help that I had a cyst the size of a tennis ball on my ovary. So I had endometriosis growing in my bowel and my bladder. So luckily I had a really great surgeon who has had a lot of experience doing this for a very long time. And the last couple of weeks have been great. I used to have severe bloating in my stomach. I knew it was bad when some of the mean messages that I would get on Instagram would say, you look like you're pregnant.
Ah,
Which
sucks
I don't
sometimes.
necessarily think that's a bad thing, but yeah, I think that was a bit of an eye opener. A couple of people would tell me that I looked like I was pregnant. And there are a few times, I showed pictures of my stomach and what was going on to my primary care doctor. And he's like, you have too much fluid in your stomach. When you get back from your tournament, we're going to need to do like a scan to kind of see what's going on. And my surgeon said that with the endometriosis, the bloating, that's like one of the biggest symptoms. And so now after surgery, it's been a lot of doing a lot of pelvic floor therapy, doing a lot of strengthening in that area to kind of get the muscles rebuilt. And then also trying to do some integrative things as well to just help aid in the recovery process.
How was it for your psyche when you didn't know what you had? You were off, your game was off. I mean, as an athlete who's devoted their entire life to a sport and to being the top of your sport, were you emotionally impacted by all of this?
I think for sure. I think especially the week leading up to my period and the symptoms that I would get. I mean, it was almost like flu-like. I would have a fever. I would have nausea. I would be in the bathroom for hours. I would feel like I was going to throw up, pass out, muscle aches, joint pain, just the severity of all of that. I do think impacted me a lot emotionally because of the confusion. And sometimes I would, be in the bathroom and I, whoever was in the house, I'd be like to my brother, I'm like, you're gonna have to take me to the hospital. Like, I don't know what's going on with my period, but this is not normal. And I kept saying, I'm like, all right, if I have another terrible period like this, I need to see somebody that maybe specializes in endo, because my friend was going through something very similar. And I think it's for women who are in positions where they're working a lot too. I think we try to like push things to the side a bit.
Yeah.
Because we realize like the downtime of the surgery and I think it's just natural for us to kind of try to avoid that. And there's some fear with having surgery as well. And so, yeah, I mean, I think emotionally it did impact me a lot, because the ups and downs, one day feeling great, the next day having extreme bloating to where it's painful to walk, having the type of contractions, then to the next day, the period starting and then not feeling great from that. I think that with the endo, I think it's an emotional roller coaster for sure.
Yeah.
And having gone through it, I've heard so many, different people from the endo community. And I've heard people having even worse symptoms than me, where they've been having to go to the emergency room a few times. And so it's really kind of one of these things. The more and more people that I meet are like, oh yeah, I have a sister, or I have a, wife, or I have a friend, somebody that has endo. And I don't think people realize, how normal it actually is.
Yeah. It's a big number.
Yeah.
And they're saying, I mean, there's 200 million estimated globally that have endo, and that's just who have been diagnosed, not all the people that still don't know they have it or are walking around in debilitating pain, or have silent endo. Did you ever feel dismissed by a doctor or felt like somebody was just way off the mark in terms of diagnosing you before you got your confirmation you had the illness?
100%. I went to a gynecologist a couple of years ago and like had brought it up because my friend was going through this, and this individual told me, it's normal to have painful periods, and she ended up doing like a transvaginal ultrasound, but I don't, fully understand how all of that works. But to my understanding, I don't think they're able to diagnose endometriosis through scans. I think they have to go in laparoscopically. Yeah. And so I think that when you have somebody like go in and describing the pains that I was dealing with and the symptoms I was dealing with, I'm surprised that somebody would immediately just rule that out and just assume that having painful periods like that are normal.
Yeah. Especially now with all the awareness that's out there, it's like, okay, maybe you're not a specialist, but let's not take that off the table.
Yeah. Because I, in some ways, wish that I would have maybe found out earlier, or maybe have had the surgery earlier, because I do think I went years and years with dealing with this and just kind of pushing it to the side and trying to deal with it on my own. And I think that it probably impacted my performance for years on end, to the point where I kind of regret maybe not seeing an endo specialist earlier, which is it's really painful for me to think about. Because I mean, this has been going on for so long. I'm grateful that now we've been able to take care of it. But yeah, I think to answer your question, I think there were a few times where I had consulted with doctors and they had kind of pushed that to the side.
How was it for you with your professional life coming forward, having, saying that you have endo? Did anyone express concern that this could somehow hinder your future performances?
No, not really. My orthopedic doctor that I consulted with, he is not a gynecologist, but
Mhm.
he felt that by having the surgery, it would only give us more information on what's going on. And if anything, it would only help. So he was really encouraging, which I think helped give me a lot of peace of mind going into the surgery, because I'm always a little bit nervous. I've had a couple surgeries now, and just being put under makes me a little bit uncomfortable. But
Mhm.
I had a lot of awesome people from the endo community reach out to me, sharing different things that helped them after surgery. I I have other friends that have endometriosis, interestingly enough, and a lot of them were able to come back and to their careers like 2 to 3 weeks after.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So, and then there's some people that I know that took a little bit longer to recover. So it kind of varied from each person that I consulted with that had the surgery before.
Right.
But for me, I wanted to give myself enough time to fully heal, because I did have 2 abdomen tears last year, and I worked really hard to recover and to, build that area back up. But then with surgery, when they cut through your ab in 4 different spots, it made me a little bit nervous trying to come back too soon and not giving myself time to fully recover, because
Yeah.
then it could, really end up hindering my season even more. But yeah, I mean, I was, if anything, I think in some ways a bit excited to finally kind of address what's going on. I knew that once they go in laparoscopically, if they found the endo growing inside, and if there was a cyst and other things going on, that they would be able to, fix the problem. So I felt like it could only help going into the surgery.
What's your advice for someone who is going through endometriosis right now, whether it's somebody who is at the beginning of their journey, in the middle, who's been dealing with it for a long time?
My advice would probably be that no one knows your body better than you. And I think that that's sometimes hard to accept when we see physicians and doctors who have maybe been doing this for 20 to 30 years, but they're not living inside your body, right? And
Yeah.
so we only know the pain that we're experiencing and what's going on. We can tell them about our symptoms, but that doesn't mean that they can understand the pain that we're going through. And so I think the biggest thing is listening to your body. I do think I listen to my body a lot, and I'm very self-aware as an athlete.
Mhm.
But I wish that I would have, yeah, I think there's just so many parts of me that just wish I would have gone in a little bit sooner. And I think getting a second opinion is always a good thing, especially if you have somebody that tells you, oh no, painful periods are normal. I think if that's someone's response, I think going in for a second opinion will never hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for being with us. And I hope that you're feeling great. And that was your first and final surgery, and that now it's just on the up and up for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll see you
For
soon.
having
Come
me.
back, please.